The Beach Girls is a 1982 comedy riding the first wave of raunchy teen flicks hitting American movie screens at the time. Directed by Pat Bud Townsend, The Beach Girls stars Deborah Blee, Val Klein, and Gina Tomasina. Somewhere in Malibu, California, a young college co-ed is preparing to spend the summer at her uncle's beach house. She invites a couple of friends who decide it's time to party. They make a couple of calls, and before you know it, the house is partying day and night. And that's before a smuggler's boatload of pot washes up on shore. What's going to happen when the uncle finds out? And his wife. And the Coast Guard. As 80s teen sexploitation films go, The Beach Girls seems more old-fashioned than its peers, and that's because The Beach Girls feels more like a throwback to the beach party movies of 2 decades before. 1963's Beach Party, starring Frankie Avalon and Annette Funicello, started the trend. Teen audiences flock to see young, sexy people having wild, consequence-free fun to a hip soundtrack and plenty of innuendo. The only grown-ups are goofy villains or squares to be won over by the power of youth. The beach movie craze lasted about 5 years, but it spoke to an audience who wanted to celebrate those moments in life between the end of childhood and the beginning of responsibility. That audience was Crown International Pictures' bread and butter, and an inspiration for many of their hits in the 1970s. In fact, Crown had released an earlier R-rated crack at the formula, Malibu Beach, in 1978. But in 1982, The Beach Girls was also very much a product of its time. There's rampant TNA and sexual setups, folks getting high and wasted. There's also a lot of humor that was weak even back then, and some of it hasn't aged well since.
I love a man in a uniform.
But one aspect that's different from the Porky's imitators and distinctive to the majority of films produced by Crown VP Marilyn Tenser is that the female characters are calling the shots, initiating the shenanigans, choosing the attention they get, indulging their fantasies, seducing the uncle so he becomes an accessory. This movie was constructed to be as much of a fantasy for young women as for men, by 80s standards anyway. The Beach Girls isn't a sex film for mature taste. No actual sex acts are depicted on screen, no plot points about the politics of sex, nothing brought up that's deep or sad or anything that would otherwise mess with the party vibe. It's that lack of drama that makes Beach Girls quaint compared to the other teen movies of the time. Porky's mind humor and the anxiety of vanquishing virginity. Fast Times at Ridgemont High brought up abortion and the disappointment of adulthood. Revenge of the Nerds tackled discrimination, even racism. The Beach Girls, by comparison, is a breezy summer vacation fantasy. This movie is designed for an audience of people who either hadn't had sex yet or just didn't want to watch the messier, pervier parts of it. The people who thought that Playboy was fine, but Penthouse was too much. Now, beach party movies usually have the hip music of the era. Beach Girls doesn't have that, but the soundtrack has a catchy AM rock sound for the party music, while the movie's opening theme sounds appropriately enough like a Beach Boys B-side. Director Bud Townsend also has a callback to his 1978 film Coach, staging a sing-along to the Woody Guthrie tune, Hey Lottie Low. For most of these actors and models, Beach Girls would be the highlight of their resume, but there are plenty of faces in this party that may jog a memory here and there. Gina Tomasina plays Kitty. Later in life, she would marry baseball player Barry Keogh and join the cast of Real Housewives of Orange County. But her biggest pop culture contribution may be as one of the fantasy girls in the ZZ Top trifecta of music videos for Legs, Gimme All Your Lovin', and Sharp Dressed Man. James Doughton plays Scott, the charming hitchhiker. He also appeared in Crown's Malibu Beach as a charming beach bum. Both roles were miles away from his role as the smarmy fraternity president in Animal House. Corinne Bohrer was the Champagne Girl. She'd end up having a much more prolific career on TV in the 80s and 90s. 21st century TV viewers may recognize her as the mom in Veronica Mars or the TV supervillain Prank on both iterations of the Flash TV series. Catherine Mary Stewart has one line as the surfer girl who's got other things on her mind. She'd find much bigger roles in cult classics like Weekend at Bernie's, The Last Starfighter, and Night of the Comet. Finally, Mary Jo Catlett was a familiar face to sitcom fans of the 70s and 80s, and SpongeBob SquarePants fans would know the voice of Mrs. Puff anywhere. If you're looking for a movie with plot, character, or comedy, move on. The Beach Girls was meant to set a mood, in the same way that Hallmark Channel movies and Harmony Korine films are constructed. In this case, The Beach Girls was meant to deliver a spring break party mood, where the summer lasts forever and the party never ends.